Hey guys, thanks for joining us again in this video series that we're doing where Jesus meets us where we are. This is my friend Blair Neichter, and she is going to talk about where Jesus met her and what he's done with her since. So Blair?
Yeah, so I definitely had a great foundation starting out. I grew up believing that God was my best friend. I would talk to him every day as a kid and fully believe that he talked back to me. And he definitely did. Do I remember those conversations? No, for sure not. I was a little kid, but my mom, you know, she had a strong faith. She grew up teaching me the Bible stories, so I had that foundation, which was fantastic.
Parents are important.
They are, for sure. I figure somewhere in high school, definitely in college, I started playing Christian, is what I like to call it. I knew to read my Bible, and I knew to go to church every weekend, and I knew to say my prayers at night, but I didn't really know why I was doing that. We
get stuck in the mechanics and the routine.
Yeah, there was no passion behind it, and it wasn't really, I just knew I was supposed to be doing it, but there was no feeling.
Not that that's bad.
No, it definitely gets you to where you need to go next, but it was just one of those stuck areas for sure. So it was in that time that I ended up having debilitating pelvic pain, and I was away at school, so I would go to the emergency room and they would pump me full of pain medicine and just make sure, you know, I wasn't dying, it wasn't my appendix or something, and they would send me home. And I probably did this for a month at school, and I was probably sleeping 16 hours a day. I was on scholarship for swimming, and I couldn't make it to practice. I couldn't get to class, and I was like, what am I doing? I finally just decided, you know what, I'm going to withdraw from school, and I'm going to go home and see my doctors and figure out what's going on. So I remember being home, and it took a while for them to figure out what was going on, but they finally ended up figuring out it was endometriosis. And so that's where the lining of your uterus goes outside your uterus and just causes a whole bunch of other problems. But the main one, yeah, very painful,
debilitating, like you said.
Yeah. And so it was, you know, I was having anxiety and depression, and it was during that time that my doctors were telling me, like, if you want kids, you need to have them now. Well, I was 19. I didn't really want kids right then. I knew I wanted them someday, but I didn't want them right that second. And so I'm like, I'm not doing that. So I remember just being overwhelmed by that feeling of like, will I find a man who cares? Like, you know, is that going to bother people? Like, will I be able to find a man who wants to marry me because I can't have kids? Like, what am I going to do? Like, do I need to freeze my eggs? Can we remove my uterus? Like, what can we do so I feel better now, but I can still have kids one day? And I just remember my doctor being like, well, I'm not removing your uterus. I remember them inducing menopause, and that was miserable in itself at 19. But
I just can't imagine.
No, it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. To those people going through menopause now, like, you know what, more power to you, because that's hard. It's hard.
Hang in there.
It is.
Did you have hot flashes?
Yes.
I just want to know. Okay.
So they're not hot flashes, because you get hot flashes with menstruation. These are like solar bursts. You feel like you're sitting on the sun. Like, I remember being in it in winter and like wearing shorts under sweatpants because I would just randomly have to start taking off clothes because it was so hot.
And then in the second later, you're putting it back on because you're cold.
And it's like, you don't know when it's coming, and it's horrible.
It is a bizarre thing.
It is, yes. So anyways, I remember being in this time of just anxiety and fear and not knowing what was going to happen next and not knowing what to do and pain, and that, you know, in that pit is where God met me. And he showed up and he's like, what are you doing? I'm right here. Depend on me. I can handle this with you and for you. And so it was then that I really started digging in and getting it, right? Like, I mean, I thank God all the time that I got sick, because it gave me the relationship I have with him now.
Which sounds backwards.
It sounds backwards, yeah, for sure.
But that's the whole point.
Yeah.
That he comes to us when we are broken.
Yeah. And I remember that I went on my Emmaus walk. And I was sitting in chapel, and I'm thinking of all these things, and I'm praying about all these things, and I remember Wilma sitting down beside me.
Wilma!
Wilma is fantastic. Everybody in Emmaus knows that. She, you know, was talking to me about the things going on, and I was telling her, and she was like, let's just pray. You know, let's just pray about this. So I remember her praying, and I have no idea what she prayed, but I remember during her prayer that I just felt the peace just overflow me, like it was surrounding me. And it was like, you know what, Blair, you don't have to have a plan, because I have a plan for you. Like, you don't have to know what it is. I'm not telling you what it is. I know what it is, and that's all you need to know. Like, it's taken care of. Don't worry about it anymore. And so at that point, I just, you know, okay, Like, you got this.
Oh my gosh.
And so I remember originally, like, I thought, you know, he was punishing me for my sins, right? Like, that's why I got sick. And
we think that sometimes.
yeah, he doesn't do that. He only gives you the good stuff.
He just allows us.
He allows things to happen, but he doesn't do it.
He allows us to step in it. But
yes. So I remember thinking that, and then I realized that wasn't it. I thought I was, and then I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to be learning from this. And so, you know, I'm like, okay, I've learned patience, and I've learned that I have to fully depend on him, and
yes.
yeah. And then I keep reading, and I'm like, I've learned everything there is to learn. Why am I still miserable? And so then, yeah, and so then I'm like, okay, I'm reading, and I'm reading about Paul, and, you know, he asked God to heal him 3 times, and each time God said, no, I'm not healing you. Through your weakness, I am strong. And I realized that's my story. Like, I have this, and it stinks because I'm in pain all the time, but now I have this huge testimony of God carrying me throughout my life. I'm like, the footprints of the time, like, you know, the story in the sand. Yeah, so when you look back and there's only one set and God was carrying him during those difficult times, and I've always told everybody, I'm going to look back and there's always going to only be one set of footprints because God's had to carry me through it all. It's a whole lot easier to go where he wants you to go and you let him carry you, that's for sure. There have been so many blessings poured out in my life since I was in that pit, that's for sure. Yeah.
And so
then I got married at 28, which was 9 years after they were telling me I needed to have kids, and I got pregnant on my honeymoon. Have a wonderful baby girl. She was a very difficult baby, and it was a very difficult pregnancy, and I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, do I want to do this again? I wanted a huge family, because I'm an only child, so I wanted more kids, but I didn't know did I want to have the kid? Did I want to adopt, or was like the plan, was God's plan just to be done? And so I remember praying and praying and praying probably for 2 years straight.
Oh my.
Yeah, just about this one decision, because I didn't know what to do, and I'm like, I feel like I want more, but like, is that what he wants? He probably told me before then, and I just wasn't paying attention. But 2 years later, I remember him saying, Blair, you have this second child, and I will heal you. Like, you will. He
said that to you?
Yes, straight up, like in prayer. Like, he's like, you have the second child, and it'll be taken care of. And so I was like,
he said he will heal.
He will heal. He will heal me. Yes. So I remember being like, okay. So without trying again, we had baby number 2, and I have not had pain since. It's been, yeah, yes. I'm surrounded by my miracles daily, which is fantastic. It definitely makes it easier, for sure, when you're surrounded by your own miracles daily.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That's,
wow.
Yeah, God's pretty great. Yeah.
What is your favorite verse?
John 1:5, his light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it. And it just reminds me that no matter what pit I'm in, and how hopeless it seems, that like there's always that little bit of light, and nothing can take it away. It's gonna defeat it all.
What's your favorite song?
My favorite all-time song is Need You Now by Plum. Right now, my favorite song is Beloved. I think it's more of the lines of the stage of life I'm in. I've got little kids, so, you know, there's days where there's not much time for anything else than them, in survival mode, and days where they hate me, and so it's just nice to know that I'm somebody's favorite and I'm somebody's beloved. So I love that song. It's a good one.
Well, Blair, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Yeah. I do appreciate it very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, for joining us again. What a sweet little girl. Oh, gosh. So sweet.